A Bookworm's Journey in the Cardinal World. Tensura X Ascendance of a Bookworm by Galaxycharmer123. 2. Traveling to Tempest Mines POV. The journey from Tempest to Blumen was far from pleasant. The road was fraught with danger, with monsters attacking us frequently. Fortunately, Ferdinand and his knight, Eckhart, managed to fend off most of them, ensuring our safety. But the journey was rough, the road bumpy, and sleep was a luxury we could barely afford. Ferdinand and Eckhart took turns staying awake, keeping watch over us as we traveled through the perilous wilderness. Feeling useless and wanting to contribute, I decided to help Mom and Tuli with cooking. Even without proper utensils, my recipes were well received, bringing some comfort to our weary group. Despite the hardships, the meals we shared lifted our spirits, a small reminder of home amidst the uncertainty. After what felt like an eternity, we finally reached Blumen. Ferdinand, in disguise, managed to get us through the light security without much fuss. Blumen, I quickly noticed, was somewhat better off than Ehrenfest. The commoners here, mostly adventurers, seemed to live with more freedom and less oppression from nobles than in Tempest. Ferdinand had someone to meet, so we were left to find a place to stay. We found an inn with decent beds, and each room cost 15 silver coins. We took 3 rooms for the night and settled in. "So, Benno, what do you think of Blumen?" I asked as we sat in our room. "It's better than Ehrenfest in terms of quality of life," Benno observed, his tone thoughtful. "The commoners have decent wages, and they can make a living by becoming adventurers. Unlike Ehrenfest, where only nobles have such privileges." I nodded in agreement. There's more opportunity here, more chances to move up. "Are you thinking of opening a business here, Benno?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. "Maybe," he replied, rubbing his chin. "But the initial capital would be high, and I'd need to research what goods are in demand. Plus, people need to be able to afford them." "True, but we can start by gathering information. How about we go meet some merchants and see what's in demand?" I suggested. "Absolutely. We might as well make the most of our time here since we'll be leaving tomorrow." "Be careful and come back safely," Mom warned us as we prepared to leave. "I'll come with you, mine," Lutz exclaimed, eager to join the adventure. "All right, let's research our new market," I replied cheerfully, and with that, we set off to explore the town. Ferdinand's Ferdinand. My mission in Blumen was to meet Baron Velyard, a man of high intelligence and strategic insight. He had personally met Rimuru and negotiated a defense pact with him, gaining access to Tempest's coveted potions, which were in high demand. Despite the Church's edict against dealing with monsters, the market operates on supply and demand, and such valuable goods couldn't be ignored. As I walked through Blumen, I couldn't help but notice the improvements since my last visit. What was once a town barely above the lower district of Ehrenfest was now steadily growing, thanks in no small part to its alliance with Tempest. Blumen's gamble on the rising nation had paid off, and the town was flourishing as a result. My mission, I realized, was more important than I initially thought. Even if we couldn't open diplomatic channels, trade with Tempest could still be established through third parties while maintaining the protection of the Church. I arrived at Baron Velyard's mansion, which, though humble compared to the noble estates of Ehrenfest, was still respectable. "Welcome, Lord Ferdinand, to my humble abode. I hope your journey was well," Baron Velyard greeted me warmly. "Thank you, Lord Velyard, for your hospitality. I appreciate the opportunity to ask my questions about Rimuru." "Of course. I must admit, I'm not an expert, so I've invited Fuse, our guild branch manager, who knows him better." "Thank you for your consideration, Lord Velyard." We entered the mansion and were soon served tea and light snacks. Justice conducted the taste test while Eckhart stood guard behind me. After some small talk, we moved on to the business at hand. "What kind of person is Rimuru?" I must confess that due to our relative isolation, we have little information about him, I inquired. Baron Velyard leaned back in his chair, considering his words carefully. "Rimuru is a relatively new ruler, still learning the ropes. In our initial dealings, I managed to trick him into signing a mutual defense pact that greatly benefited us. He was surprised but took it in stride, not making a fuss. I was prepared to increase our aid in exchange for their protection, but Rimuru understood the importance of the document and didn't raise any objections." "So, he's easy to trick? Naive, perhaps?" I probed. trying to gauge the extent of Rimuru's abilities. Not exactly, Velyard cautioned. That was his first official document, and he made a mistake, but he quickly came back with a counter-offer, potions and weapons at prices far below market value. I agreed, feeling a bit guilty for my earlier trick. But then, Rimuru revealed that he had a 99% pure healing potion, capable of mending broken limbs, which he would only sell at his discretion. Velyard's expression grew serious. The trade started small, but the goods from Tempest are so superior to those from the Western nations that if we were to break off our relationship, it would cost us dearly. Even the commoners might rise against us. Our fate is now tied to Tempest, whether we like it or not. I realized then that Rimuru was not to be underestimated. He might have been fooled once, but he turned the situation to his advantage, establishing a trade relationship that made Blumen dependent on Tempest. This will be more troublesome than I thought. I need to reassess him, I thought, reevaluating Rimuru's potential. Fuse, who had been quietly observing, decided to speak up. While Rimuru is friendly, you must address him with the respect due a king. The monsters are fiercely loyal to him, and any disrespect could jeopardize any relationship you hope to build with him. Monster society values strength, and Rimuru is the strongest among them. I understand. Thank you for the advice. We continued discussing Tempest, with Fuse sharing his experiences. He had visited the city and was impressed by its cleanliness, law and order, and functioning society. Tempest had a government to administer the region, ministers to handle various affairs, and even its own currency, points, used for internal trade. These points couldn't be replicated and were fully based on trust, a concept that was foreign to most other nations. As I left the meeting, I knew that we needed to approach Rimuru with caution and respect, treating him as the ruler he was. Benno's pav walking the streets of Blumen with mine and Lutz, I observed the bustling market. To my surprise, it was filled with recreational items, food, toys, instruments, things you wouldn't expect in a place I had initially thought was poor. The commoners here had as much money as a lay noble in Ehrenfest, a shocking realization. Setting up a business here would be challenging, with high costs for purchasing a store and investing in goods. Even loans weren't cheap, and there was a thriving business in weapons and armor, making it difficult to enter the market. We decided to visit a shop owned by an affluent merchant named Myor, who apparently had a contract with Rimuru. It was an opportunity to learn more about the person we were planning to meet. "Hello, is Myor here?" I asked as we entered the shop. "I am Myor. What can I do for you?" the merchant replied. "Hello, my name is Benno, a merchant from Ehrenfest, and these are my acquaintances, mine and Lutz. We came to ask a few questions about the ruler of Tempest, Rimuru. We're going to meet him and hoped you could provide some insight." "Of course. What would you like to know? I happen to know him personally and am actually heading to Tempest tomorrow." Benno's eyes widened at the statement. "Would you guide us to Tempest? We don't know the route, and it would help us immensely. We'll, of course, pay for your services." "Sure, I don't mind. Now, about Rimuru. He's incredibly friendly once you get to know him. He saved my life in Ingrasha and helped me when I needed it. He was there to save some children whose bodies couldn't handle excess mana. He's willing to negotiate with anyone if it brings profit and is remarkably kind. I've been to his town, and he's revered there." Mine suddenly burst with excitement. "Really? He can heal people with mana problems? You're not joking, right?" "Yes, he was their teacher, and they seemed very close. He told me he had a plan to save them." Mine's eyes sparkled with hope, and Lutz was equally overjoyed at the prospect of finally finding a way to save her from the devouring. "Thank you so much, sir. This means the world to me," mine said, her voice trembling with emotion. "If you want, I can talk to him about your situation," Myor offered, looking sympathetic. "Really? That would be incredible. Thank you. You should trust the monsters more," Myor advised. "They're ready to negotiate if you're willing. I've grown my business manyfold by trading with them." Benno looked contemplative. "Thank you. We'll contact you tomorrow and settle on a price." As we left the shop, mine was practically glowing with happiness. Finally, there was hope. Mine's pav today was the happiest day of my life. For the first time, I found a glimmer of hope that I might survive. I rushed back to the inn and shared the news with Mom, who immediately started tearing up and hugged me tightly. Finally, we can see a day when we don't have to fear for your life anymore. Mom whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Yes, Mom. Finally, we can be together forever, I replied, my heart swelling with joy. We'll always be together, mine, Tuli said, tears in her eyes as she joined the embrace. When Ferdinand returned, I eagerly told him about our conversation with Myor. He was surprised but quickly tempered my enthusiasm. Don't assume he'll do this for free. Be prepared to offer something in return. Not everyone is as kind as they appear, mine. You should have a plan for all scenarios and not charge ahead blindly, Ferdinand cautioned. I'm willing to pay any price to live with my family. Rimuru is kind, so I don't think he'll demand anything unreasonable. I know, but always plan for the worst-case scenario, Ferdinand advised. Ferdinand then addressed everyone in the room. Tomorrow, we enter the Jura forest. My advice is to address Rimuru with the respect due to a king or duke. We cannot speak of him without honorifics. From now on, we will refer to him as Lord Rimuru or His Majesty Rimuru, fitting his station as a king. Should we really address him as such? He's still a monster, my lord, Eckhart questioned. Justice chided him gently. Monster or not, he is the ruler of all races within the Jura forest, likely possessing more power than our current duchy. We must respect him as we would any other king. You're right, Justice. From now on, we will address him with the appropriate honor, Ferdinand agreed. I nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. We then retired to our rooms to rest, our minds filled with anticipation and hope for the journey ahead. Third-person pod the next day, Ferdinand, mine, Benno, and the rest of the group met with Myor and agreed to pay him 7 gold coins for the trip to Tempest. Unbeknownst to them, they were being watched. A shadow had been following them ever since they entered Blumen. It was Soy, a skilled ninja from Tempest, who had been silently observing them. Soy felt a twinge of sympathy for mine and decided to inform Lord Rimuru about her and the group's visit to Tempest. He sent a body double ahead to Rimuru and continued to tail the carriage as it made its way toward Rimuru City, the capital of the Jura Tempest Federation.